2002, for the 2003 model year, Honda began producing a very odd vehicle, the Honda Element, which ran all the way through the spring of 2011. The Honda Element was this odd, boxy, weird-looking thing. Some might even say ugly, and for a while I did too. Aimed at Gen Y people, which apparently I'm part of, born in 1990. This car was designed for those living an active lifestyle, if you will. I've always found this thing interesting, weird, and I guess because of that, a little bit cool. And today, we're gonna check this thing out, see what the Honda Element was all about.
Before we begin, huge thanks to Whitehead Auto Sales of Alcoa, Tennessee for making this review possible. Be sure to check out their inventory at the link in the description below. Now, back to the Honda Element.
Let's begin, as always, with a walk around to the outside of the Element. So like I said, boxy design. I don't think I really have to say that though. You can tell this thing is quite square, but it's still kind of weird and cool at the same time. So you see here you have your body color, and it was available in a variety of colors like any automobile. But they came with these gray plastic fenders and lower rocker panels. Back here is the rear fenders with the fuel door, also in the gray plastic cladding. You got some nice 5-spoke alloy wheels on these things, which is really nice. These are not the base wheels. The base wheels are actually like these steel wheels. These actually look pretty good. Come around the back, you see these taillights. These were used, I believe, through the entire run of this car. This was only made for one generation. These were used through the whole run of the Element. Back here it would say Element right here. It's been debadged for some reason, but you can see a squared off rear end. And if we come around to look at it from the side profile, once again, nice flat drop off in the back, boxy vehicle. Continuing our tour around here, interesting touch. Here is the roof mounted radio antenna, which on most vehicles is mounted in the center of the rear, the center of the front. But this one, Honda chose to put off on in the rear to the passenger side of the vehicle. Kind of odd. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Walking around, you can see this sort of exposed hinge, if you will, for the rear door. We'll get around to the rear doors here in a bit. But finish our walk around the outside. Down here in the plastic bumper, you can see where there would be fog lights option, and here's your holder for your front license plate. Now, getting into your Honda Element, you're going to notice something about the doors. It's almost like a door and a half on each side. It's almost like an extended cab pickup truck. So if you open the front driver door here, first of all, this thing swings out really, really wide. I mean, we're talking almost 90, maybe 85, 86, 87 degrees. This thing almost swings out 90 degrees. So getting in and out of it, absolutely not a problem. There's plenty, as long as you're not parked too close to another vehicle, you got no problem getting out of here. Anyway, as for the rear door, right here, just like an extended cab pickup truck, is your handle. Pull that and you open it up to rear seat access. Speaking of rear seat access, the Honda Element is an interesting vehicle because from the outside, it looks like it would not be a very roomy 4-seater car, but you can see looking at this right now, there's actually a lot of leg room from the back of the front seats to the rears. This seat is all the way back. It cannot go back any further. And I'm just gonna kind of step right on in here. Absolutely no problem. I've got plenty of leg room. My knees don't touch the seats. I've even got a good amount of headroom in here. And I'm 6 foot plus. This car is very deceiving. You'd think it wouldn't be all that roomy, but actually for passengers, this thing seats 4 people quite comfortably. And there goes the door. But if you think the rear access to here and the ease of access is this vehicle's only party trick in the rear, you are mistaken. So let's look at these rear seats real quick, because there is actually some cool features about them. Now, unfortunately about these seats, you can only seat 2 people in the rear. There's not a 3 wide like most SUV type vehicles. But there's actually a reason for that, which we'll touch on in a second. But first, you see each passenger has their own cup holder built into the seat, which is kind of a nice touch. And these seats do something very cool. Now, excuse the fact that this one's a bit messed up. It's not a perfect example, but it's still a very cool car nonetheless. If you pull this little strap right here near the seat center, you can push this thing all the way back flat. Do the same to the other side, and they fold nice and flat. Now, if I were to remove the headrest from the front seat, lean it all the way back, and slide it forward some, bring it back. Now, maybe with some tweaking, your Honda Element can be a place to sleep. I'd probably recommend blowing up an air mattress on top of this if I were actually going to use it, but your seating could fold completely flat into a bed. And in addition, you could have optioned your Element with a rear moonroof, which this one does not have. So you can go camping, sleep in the back of this thing, and stare through your roof at the stars. Once again, this is a lifestyle vehicle for active lifestyle, and we're going to see more and more of why that is here in a minute. That's kind of lumpy though, not gonna lie. All right, from the same position, you can see there are some exposed mechanisms on the side wall next to these rear seats. Now, this is not because there's anything missing, at least I don't think. This is actually here because these seats can be completely removed from the car. I'm not going to be doing that in this video, however, they can be done. That's what all this is for. But the other neat trick these things have is down here, there's a yellow strap. I don't know how well it can be seen. We pull that yellow strap, we can pick up the entire seat, fold this bit down, and with a little effort, hook it to this rear grab handle up on the ceiling. And you can see this seat folds flat up against the wall. Now, I reckon that's going to completely kill your side visibility out these rear windows, which it is. If you're driving around in this thing, so keep that in mind. But you can do that to both sides. Now, to see what it looks like with the seats folded up, we're going to go through the back. To do that, you're going to pull a handle right here on the tailgate next to the key lock, and you see just the top half opens. Now, here on top of the bottom half is a little latch. We pull that to the left, the bottom half lowers, and you get this nice clamshell effect, just like in Land Rovers, I think, or Range Rovers, or whatever those vehicles are. What's interesting here is this can be used as a seat or whatever you need to. You can set things on here. So it's a tailgating vehicle. Put the hatch up, you've got cover from rain and stuff. A little shade here, shade you from the sun. Like I said, versatile vehicle. Now, and when we go into the rear, you're going to see what happens when we fold the seats up. You have this big, huge, square loading area, cargo area. And look at this floor. This floor is, part back here is hard plastic, kind of dimply and sort of grippy. You got the plastic vinyl-like material for the rest of the floor all the way up to the front, including the front floorboards. You'll see that in a minute. Very easy to clean out. Once again, very utilitarian. No carpet anywhere in this vehicle. Now, once again, these seats can be removed to offer you even more cargo volume than you have back here, but this is still really cool. Articles I've read on this vehicle claim you can put 2 mountain bikes in the back of this thing standing up, or even a full-size surfboard can be laid in here if you configure this vehicle right. That's just wild. Once again, lifestyle vehicle, very utilitarian, very minimalistic, but really cool. And there's still yet more to see. And with the rear seats put back into place, you still have a fairly decent amount of cargo room back here. Obviously, it's going to be restricted with the seats. It's not the biggest in the world, but it's still pretty decent. You can get some pretty sizable luggage back here. You could probably get luggage for 4 people in this car. and still get 4 people in it. Now, more things to see in the back. First, if we go down here to the floor, if we push here, pull up, you're gonna find your spare tire under here. Not really any storage. You could probably store some thin items along the perimeter of the tire, but really this is for your tire, and I'm assuming tire tools back here. In fact, I think that's what that blue bag is. You do have some storage off to the sides. Over here, you got a storage pocket with these holes so you can view your items, or maybe even click things into it. Same on this other side. You have the same storage bin over here, and you have a 12-volt round power socket back here. You also get a tie down in each corner right here, this nice chrome silver colored tie down. And I forgot to mention it with the seats up, but I don't want to put them back up. Down here on the side, you get another tie down in each side of the car. So again, utilitarian. You can tie things down in the back of this vehicle. And when you're all done, just close your bottom half first, then your top half, and you're ready to go on an adventure. Going on discussing the interior, we are in the back seat again, and like I mentioned before, there's a good amount of legroom and headroom, and these seats are okay as far as comfort's concerned. I would have to take a long ride in it to see just how it is, but so far not so bad. Looking at the rear doors, you have another storage pocket down here with those little slots so you can see things through them, see what you got. You got a speaker in the back doors, very nice. It's not in the panel, it's in the door. You do have a door release handle on back here, although it is worth noting, just like an extended cab pickup truck, you do have to have the front door open first to open this, and this has to be closed in order for that to latch. No roll down windows back here. You do have a vent style window, much like a minivan, on these back doors, so you get a little bit of air in here, but not a whole heck of a lot. Otherwise, not much to see back here. You've got your cup holders here at the seat centers. Those are okay, though I imagine if you're a bigger guy like me, you're gonna be kind of sitting kind of weird to not tip your drink over, but it's the thought that counts, right? Back of the front driver's seat is interesting. You've got a little shallow storage pocket down here, and then you've got all these loops, which I assume is to hang things or tie things or whatever. Kind of interesting. Now we'll make our way to the front, and excuse me, the wind keeps trying to close the door on me. We have our door card here, which you can see the theme continues with the storage pocket that you can see through, and your speaker grills here. You get this two-tone gray and blue color in this interior, pretty interesting. Come around to the side, you can see that two-tone continues onto the seat. These are fully manually adjustable, no power here. And then we make our way to the dash, which is very interesting. Now, if we actually start at the bottom, you got a little bitty storage tray here. Kind of interesting. You're gonna put some coins or what have you in there. Little storage tray down below this cruise control button, which is kind of interesting. This is the power button for your cruise control, but that's the only cruise control that's located down here. The rest of your controls are located, like every other vehicle, on the steering wheel. You got full cruise control. Obviously this is 2003, so there's no adaptive cruise. It's just your standard cruise control. Kind of weird though, but not that weird, but still weird to see the power down there and the controls up here. If we come up higher on the dashboard, you can see we have these circular air vents with this air cutoff that kind of sits below it and rotates around the bottom. That's how you cut your air on and off. This spins in a circle and tips for up and down, so you can aim the air precisely where you want it. Below that, you got it looks like a little storage tray, and it is kind of a shallow little storage tray of sorts. You can put things here, which is once again kind of cool, very usable, utilitarian if you will. And that tray continues to the other side of the steering wheel. You can see you got a little bit more here. You can put some small things here if you wanted to. And then on the passenger side, big 3-part storage tray for putting all kinds of things in here that you don't mind sitting loose. This, I mean, look, like I keep saying, this is a versatile vehicle. This thing has all kinds of storage, even if it's just open storage. Also worth noting, in here you do have, under this cover, you have an auxiliary jack here, your 3.5mm jack. No USBs, this is 2003 after all. And you do get another 12-volt round socket up here. Looking at our gauges now here's our tachometer, and I'm going to try to show this as best I can. Let's see if I can rotate the camera to show it. These clear gauge covers are not flat. They kind of come to this point. They're kind of conical. I've never seen this before. This is kind of interesting. Got this little black tip on them. I'm not really sure what that's about or why that is, but that's how Honda chose to do it on this vehicle. Pretty good looking tachometer gauge as well. You got that blue color from the interior with these little red markings at every RPM intervals. Give a little rev here because, well, it's a car. Over on this side, your gauge cover theme continues. You've got your array of warning lights to the left and right, fuel gauge on top, temperature on the bottom. The most interesting gauge in this car is your centrally mounted speedometer. Now you can see the color theme continues to this as well. It reads up to 120. I don't know if it can do that or not. But the craziest thing is down here, your odometer is this digital readout, which is obviously not uncommon for the early 2000s, but you can see the odometer kind of curves along with the curvature of the speedometer gauge. It's not often that you see a curved odometer in a vehicle. This car comes standard with a lot of the things you'd want in a vehicle of the time. You get your power windows, front only of course. Interesting, you can still lock out, have a window lockout for the passenger window, even though it's only a 2 power window vehicle. You get your power mirrors and your power locks. Coming over to the center stack, your air vents in the center are not the circles. You've got these squares that are pretty much any other car's gauges. You do have AM, FM, CD player in this thing as well. Down here, big, easy to use, easy to read knobs for your climate control. Here's your fan speed, your temperature, your air direction, your defrosters, AC, and recirculation and such. Down from that, here's your hazard button right next to your manual gear lever. Now this car in 03 could be optioned with either your 4-speed automatic or your 5-speed manual. And the interesting part of this is really how this is mounted. It's mounted kind of sticking out at a 45-degree angle or so from the dashboard. Instead of being down on the floor, it's up here. And this may look weird, but it actually works pretty well, and if you're not looking at it, it feels just like any other gear lever in a manual car because of how it curves upwards to kind of point in the direction that any other gear lever would. Kind of cool, and kind of weird at the same time, but it really works because here's your steering wheel, here's your gear lever. I mean, they're within 8 inches of each other, if I'm to estimate. So they're very close together. Your hand's not far away from the wheel when you're shifting. It's not down here on the floor cluttering everything up. It's actually in a pretty good location. Coming down to the floor, you can see what I was saying before, this utilitarian, easy to clean, plastic, vinyl, soft flooring continues in the front. You know, to make this thing easy to clean, you can get it muddy and just spray it or wipe it out. Here you do have a couple of cup holders down here. They're not exactly the biggest things in the world, but they look like they should hold a reasonable drink. Here's your, of course, manual parking brake lever, because every car should have one of those and not a button. And you do get a third cup holder back here for whatever reason, a little bit of shallow storage if you want it. To the right of the center stack, here's your glove box, and it's a pretty sizable glove box. It's not giant, but it's definitely not tiny like the Chevy SSR, and it is lockable, which is very good. Up above, we do have our map lights, our reading lights, which are in kind of a weird location. Most of your reading lights are going to be closer to the rear view. These are kind of back here and pointed sort of forward almost. Now one of them is messed up, which whatever, but just push on the lens and it lights it up. And here you have a storage compartment. So if you push this button, that lid flops up, and then you've got this storage area that you can see into. So there's my hand, you can see it. See if you have anything up there. Kind of interesting, very strange, but it's there and it works, and nothing's gonna fall out, but you'll always know there's something there. Also up here you have your sun visors, which are fairly large. Of course they need to be because this windshield is somewhat far away from you for as small as this car is, and it's relatively big, with these extenders that actually extend all the way past the rear view. So if you put them both down, put both extenders out, you get full sun blocking. And I mean, even this gap, the sun's not gonna even peek through this gap and blind you beyond the rear view. This is actually really nice visor setup in this car. You do have a passenger side mirror, of course, but nothing on the driver's side because you really don't need it. But I'm really impressed by these visors. That's every car ever made needs to at least do this. Why can't we get this right? Now let's talk a little bit about trim and updates for this car. Now this is your EX trim level of the Element. This is not your base level. The base level will be your DX. Your EX came standard with your cruise control, power mirrors, alloy wheels, ABS, and those driver's seat back bungees that I showed you earlier. Talking about updates throughout the years. Now keep in mind, this vehicle ran for one single generation from 03 to 2011. For 2005, Honda offered the option to have a navy blue cladding rather than this gray to go along with the silver colored elements to make it look just a little bit better, a little more unique. For 2006, Honda had an EXP trim of this car, which had, instead of these fenders being this plain blackish gray plastic, they were fully painted, color matched to the car. For 2007, there was a mild facelift to this thing, which also gave it a little bit more horsepower and upped your automatic transmission from a 4-speed to a 5-speed. Your front seat belts were actually moved from the rear doors to above the door opening. That way you wouldn't have to unbuckle your seat belt for someone sitting in the back. To get out, you could just simply open the doors and let them out. The grille on this year was also updated from this kind of X pattern crosshatch thing to an updated grille that has some nice silver colored slats running across it, just to kind of bring the look of the car more up to date for the time. Also for the same year, Honda released an SC version of the Element, which came with a different bumper and grille and headlights, lowered suspension, and 18-inch tires, as well as the option to have carpeting in the interior of this car. Remember, up until this point, there was no interior carpeting in the Honda Element. And then for 2009, the hood and front grille were completely redesigned. This shape went away and it actually became a little bit more square. Did away with the plastic fenders, went full metal, and actually somewhat squared off the wheel arches as well. Also, and unfortunately in 2009, that was the end of the rear moonroof option for this car. So, sorry, if you want to stare up at the stars while sleeping in the back of your Element, you got to do 2009 or earlier. After that, the car ran until spring of 2011, at which point Honda completely killed it. And finally, let's talk about what's under the hood. But first, let's talk about the hood itself. Look how far this thing opens. Once again, almost 90 degrees. You have no problem getting under this hood to work on this car, and very little chance of banging your head if something startles you or you get really upset. Honda really thought of just about everything when they made this car. As for the powertrain in this car, this is a 2.4 liter naturally aspirated inline 4-cylinder engine pulled straight out of the Honda CR-V of the time. In fact, this whole driveline is pretty much Honda CR-V. This engine puts out about 160 horsepower, about 161 pound-feet of torque. Now, you could get this option, like I said before, in the beginning with either a 4-speed auto or a 5-speed manual. Later on, again, they did up that auto to a 5-speed, you know, to probably up your fuel economy a little bit. This thing could also be optioned with either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. More specifically, Honda's real-time 4-wheel drive. For those who don't know what that means, it's kind of like the electronic 4-wheel drive in the Ford Aerostars of the early 90s, where it's mainly, at least in the case of this car, front-wheel drive until it detects front-wheel slippage, at which point it will engage the rear wheels and can send up to 70% of the torque to the rear of the vehicle. Fuel economy for the Honda Element ranged anywhere from 20 miles per gallon city, 23 highway for your all-wheel drive manual, all the way up to 21-25 for your front-wheel drive automatic. And I imagine you might get a little bit better if you equip that front-wheel drive with a manual, but I didn't find figures for that. All right, let's see what this thing's like to drive. First of all, accelerating, go through the gears, easy clutch. The gear shift is, I mean, just in a great position. I mean, I don't think you could ask for a better position for a manual gear shift. I mean, this is really nice. Taking turns, it's not the most stable thing. I mean, you're gonna get some body roll, but it's an SUV-like vehicle. It's not a sports car. Visibility out of this thing is actually really nice. You get kind of a small-ish rear view mirror, but it's okay. You got a nice sizable back window to see out of. Side view mirrors are actually big enough to see fairly well. Great visibility out the sides as well, unless of course you put the rear seats up against the wall. Then you are losing those two rearmost windows, which could hamper your visibility quite a bit. Comfort in front, the seats are actually pretty decent. You could probably road trip this thing no problem, and that's really what this thing was designed for. It was designed to drive a long distance, take you and your gear to wherever your venture was going to happen, and you could camp there as well. All right, starting for 0, let's see what the acceleration is like in this thing. And now keep in mind, I'm not even going to 4,000 RPM. All right, so acceleration, not too shabby. Keep in mind, it's not a race car, but it's still a modern enough vehicle that that 4-cylinder can get this 3,400 pound car rolling fairly quickly. Now we're going to turn this thing around here, and we're going to cut it all the way to the left, and this thing actually, with a short wheelbase, pretty much turns on a dime. I mean, this thing is very maneuverable, and it's quick enough to accelerate with modern traffic, which, I mean, you would hope so considering it's a 2003 car. I'm kind of impressed by this thing. You're not winning any races with it, but that's not the idea. This car is meant for adventure, and that adventure is not on the racetrack. But the adventures it's meant to take you on, your mountain biking, your hiking, your surfing, it'll get you to where you're going. You can stay there, you can have your adventure, you can load back up, go back home, wash this thing out, and start all over again. And that's what makes the Honda Element kind of a cool car. To some it may be ugly, to some it may even be stupid, but to those who are looking to, you know, get out and be active and go hiking and mountain biking and surfing and skiing and all those great things, those outdoorsy adventure lifestyle things, this is actually kind of a great lifestyle vehicle. And if I was an active person, I would probably buy one of these. I would probably buy one of these anyways, just because it is so interesting and very versatile. Now, we'll note this is not the smoothest ride. It's not a luxury vehicle. You're gonna feel some bumps, you're gonna feel some imperfections in the road, but that's okay. You know, it's not quite as harsh as an economy car. Believe me, I know. I daily drive a Nissan Versa, and that can be kind of rough. You feel things, but it's still pretty comfortable. You're sitting pretty much upright like you're in a truck or a van, and it's really nice. Visibility over the hood. It's got a somewhat short nose on it, even though it's got this long dash that makes the distance in front of you actually a bit longer, but it's got this short hood that kind of drops down a little bit, makes it easy to place and wherever you want to park it. This is a very usable vehicle. Very easy to drive, very easy to handle, very nimble as far as making U-turns and getting you into places. This is definitely not a bad car at all. All right, y'all, so that's going to do it for the 2003 Honda Element, the first year of the first and only generation Honda Element. I really think this is a neat car. Granted, they're all old now. You know, your oldest one is going to be 19 years old. Your newest one's going to be 11. This is 2022 when I'm filming this. So they're going to have some used car mileage on them. They're definitely going to be used, but still, what a neat vehicle. Something that Honda maybe should not have killed off, and maybe something they could possibly even bring back. I think they should now, because adventure vehicles are really gaining in popularity again. But how cool is it to have a mostly economical vehicle, a 4-cylinder engine you can get with a manual? You can load this thing up with all your adventure gear. You can take it to wherever your adventure is going to be, camp in it, go on your adventure, go hiking, biking, skiing, whatever you're going to do, snowboarding, load everything back in it without worrying about the carpet, drive back home, wash it out, and start all over again. That's just a cool thing to have. And I'm super excited that I finally got to check this thing out. And I hope that you guys enjoyed coming along on the ride with me to check this thing out. And I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Some people think it's ugly. I did it first as well, but now it's kind of grown on me. I actually kind of almost want one. Huge thanks once again to Whitehead Auto Sales of Alcoa, Tennessee for lending me this Element for this review today. If you want to see their inventory, check the description below. There will be a link to their website listing their full inventory, including this Element and a few others I hope to be able to review as well. Go check them out in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, guys, check out the rest of the videos on this channel. And if you like what you see, subscribe if you feel so inclined. Share the video with others that you want to share cool things like this with. Also, follow me over on Facebook and Instagram. I always post when a new video comes up, and I say this every time. I'm going to continue saying it. Hopefully, I'll just start putting more content up there as well. Also, check the description below for a link to a list of vehicles that I would be interested in reviewing and driving on this channel. If you have anything that is or isn't on that list you'd be willing to let me do that with, hit me up at my email address in the description below. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good one. 88 degrees in East Tennessee today, and I choose today to shoot a video of a car. Whew, it is hot. This camera has overheated a few times already.